320, 370, hut, hut.
Vikings Football, a weekly report on the Minnesota Vikings' 1977 National Football League campaign. Brought to you in part by Bombardier Skidoo, the world's #1 selling snowmobile. Go do it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Parker, and this is the first edition of this season's Viking football shows. And the season begins this week against probably one of the toughest opponents you could pick to start a season out. They don't come any tougher than the Dallas Cowboys. A good training season, I think, for the Vikings, and I think our guests can shed some light on that. This season, I'm very happy to say we're inaugurating a new system of co-hosts. We're going to use many of the outstanding former Viking stars. And this guy was probably one of the greatest, the old captain, number 67, Grady Alderman.
Well, Tony, I'm disappointed that you put so much emphasis on old. I like the part about star and all those kind of things. Outstanding. That was very good.
Grady, before we talk about the Vikings and about football, I'd like to point out for those folks who may not be aware of it that they can hear you in many of the areas every weekend doing the Viking games, and I think you're really enjoying that. It sounds great.
Yeah, I sure am, Tony. I do the color portion of the radio broadcasts and find it very enjoyable. It was a nice way to wind down without just completely divorcing myself from football.
I got to ask you, does it look easier from up there than it was down there?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a true expert now. I can criticize every position.
Okay, you've been with the Vikes through this training season. It seems like it's been an outstanding season for them, a good, strong camp.
Yes, it is. They finished the preseason with a 4-2 record, and the 2 losses were by wide margins. And yet Bud used a lot of different players. I think he saw what he wanted to see because they kept 7 players that they did not keep last year. And they have still have a spot open, I guess, pending the resolution of the Ed White situation. So he played a lot of people, have some new people on the team to show for it, and the team came along very nicely and won their last preseason game very convincingly.
Grady, do you realize that since you quit playing, which was after the 75 season, that there are 16 new faces on that club?
I guess I hadn't looked at that, but certainly with 7 this year, that would be 9 last year. Or
Says something about the fact that Bud keeps bringing up new, bigger, stronger, we hope, better people.
Yes, I talked to a player, a scout from Oakland last week, and he indicated, he says, you know, this team changes, and they intersperse a lot of new and younger players in there, but nobody realizes it because some of the old familiar names are still playing, and that's the thing that everyone emphasizes. They don't realize that there are young players that are now veteran players and with a lot of experience.
Dallas, just, you know, we'll talk to our guest about it today, but they can't be any tougher to start the season. That's going to be a good test.
I can't imagine that they could ever be any tougher. They have, they do a lot of different things on offense. They do some things a little bit differently on defense, but overall they have outstanding personnel on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't matter how you line your people up if they're good enough. And Dallas has excellent people.
Going to be a tough day for everybody, of course, and especially for number 50. Our guest today, middle linebacker Jeff Seaman, and we'll talk to Jeff after we take time out to watch this.
The Pacific Northwest. Olympia was born out here back in 1896, brewed for men who enjoy their life, their land, and their beer.
We're bringing you what we know best. The spirit of the great Northwest. Olympia could happen just once in a world.
Come taste Olympia's world.
Save now during General Electric Factory Sale Days. Get big savings on selected GE major appliances from now until November 4th. Save on this heavy-duty washer-dryer pair, both with permanent press cycles, and this 17.6 cubic feet frost-free refrigerator. This GE electric range with easy clean oven, and this convertible GE dishwasher. Use it as a portable now, build in later. Come in and save during GE Factory Sale Days.
We were talking about the fact a moment or two ago that the Vikings have had 16 new names, new people added to that club, so that many of the outstanding veterans, of course, are gone, and they're being replaced by new, younger people. However, our guest today, number 50, Jeff Seaman, is a very important part of that veteran group. Jeff, this is your 6th year, if I'm not mistaken, so you're kind of moving into that role of the guy that's got to lead and be the guy to keep the young people steady and in line.
Almost, Tony. I know I'm up in the front of the plane already in the first class section, so that means something.
You didn't get all of them in the old seat, did you?
No, I don't think I've got Grady's seat. But as I look at the guys up there, gee, in a couple of years, as I see the logical retirements, I'll be one of the older guys.
Right.
And it's hard to envision. Just a few years ago, I was one of the younger, and all of a sudden got a different capacity on this squad.
Let's not let that plane seat thing get by. Maybe we should explain it to some of the folks who didn't quite get it. It's traditional, I believe, that the veterans and the oldest veterans get the front seats, the big wide ones, first class. And does it go, Grady, pretty much by how many years on the team, or is it the biggest, strongest guy?
No, it is longevity on the team and in the league.
I see.
It's kind of a seniority thing, and we make no differentiation. I say we. I can't drop that syndrome, I guess.
Yeah.
They make no differentiation between starters and reserves. It's just years of survival in the National Football League.
I see. So if a new man comes in with about 12 years, he goes right up in first class.
That's correct. He
Yes.
may bump someone, in fact.
Well, Jeff, I'm glad you're up there because I know I spent a season or two with you back in tourist section, and you need more room than you get back there. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys. They've gone 3-3. The Vikings have gone 4-2. I think it's true you can't tell too much by scores and stuff in preseason, but what are your feelings now going into this week's game?
Well, Dallas is a perennial competitor in their Eastern Division of the National Football Conference, and I think is probably as physical a team as we'll play. It's funny, as good as their people are, offensively they try to finesse you. Defensively, I think, is probably the real strength of their football team, and I think we saw an example the other night when they played Pittsburgh of the awesome pass rush that they have, even with second-teamers in there. A guy like Randy White, a second-teamer. Tony Dorsett, a second-teamer. You know, people that they've got a lot of people behind their starters who can play, and they've traditionally been that way, and we're going to have our hands full.
The last time you played Dallas was a playoff game when Preston Pearson, as he tells it, in the confusion, took that pass, found the ball in his hip, luckily turned around, walked in, and won the playoff. And went into the playoffs. Grady, you've been in a couple of good victories over the Dallas Cowboys, but it hasn't been easy. The Vikings have only won 3 of the last 10 against the Cowboys.
Gosh, you pointed that out, and I can remember one in particular, and I think it was probably the best game that we have ever played here, and that was the '73 championship game. We had an excellent game plan on offense, and we executed very well. And still, we needed some big plays by the defense. Bobby Bryant intercepted a pass and ran it in for a touchdown, and it was a struggle, but it was one of our better games, and they had perhaps what they thought was their best team to date.
You know, the Dallas game, I suppose any game this season, it can be a repeat of last year. Those block kicks, 16 of them in one season, which has got to be some kind of a record. They don't keep those statistics. But time and again last season, as you guys remember, a block kick made the difference. You started out with a 10-10 game with the Rams, a block kick. 10-9 with Detroit, a block kick. What are you doing, Jeff? What's the secret? What's the system? It didn't happen in Grady's days.
Sure didn't.
I don't think anyone can fully explain it. I know that sometimes I think block kicks and goal line stands are similar kinds of situations. You're desperate to some extent. It's a situation where I think you really have to rely on the enthusiasm, the motivation of each and every one of the guys out there. It's easy to line up in an attempt to block a kick, and you see it happen throughout the National Football League, guys going half speed. Well, once you go hard and you block one, you have a sense of confidence that you can do it again. And it's just a matter of going hard every time and having the people to do it. And I think we've had a guy like Alan Page, who's very quick off the ball, gets great penetration. Matt Blair now, who's 6'5" and a great leaper, and who, at least on our extra points, is taking a run at it and jumping high, as you'll find most teams are doing now with a tall individual. Nate Allen, Bobby Bryant on the corners, who are able to wind it down tight, get a good jump on the ball, and if there's any kind of a bobble or delay, they've got a good opportunity to block it. So not only do we have the people, but we're getting maximum effort out of everybody, and that's the only way I can explain it.
Okay, you're talking about goal line stands and about the block kicks. Let's take a look at game number 2 last year, and this was kind of the start of it. The Vikings beat New Orleans to start the season last year. So now here's game 2 against the Rams, wound up 10-10. The difference was blocking a field goal attempt by Tom Dempsey. Here right off the bat, the Viking defense does it, Grady. Again, the defense.
Yeah, they picked up an interception there. Hayden was running a little sprint and threw the ball a little short.
This was a classical game of defense giving up a lot of yards but not a lot of points. I think the Rams made a whole bunch of yards running this game, but we were able to stop them time and time again inside our 10-yard line.
And, you know, as I recall, each of the running backs gained over 120 yards.
Yeah, that's right.
There we had a little miscue on our part.
Here's a great second and third effort by Capoletti to get their only touchdown.
Yeah, that's Bertelsen, Tony.
Oh, was that Bertelsen?
Who's gone now.
Who was cut this season, by the way.
That's right.
Good old veteran from Hudson, Wisconsin.
There we are with less than 2 minutes to go, and they've got the ball in touchdown
They're
territory.
talking about goal line stands. They got about 3 shots at this, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they sure did. And
Did
the
they?
Rams are a conservative group, and you pretty well know when they're down with a yard to go that they're going to be running the ball, and it gives us the ability just to tee off on it, all 11 men.
Yeah, from your vantage point there, it looks like you could see exactly what was coming.
You generally can at that position.
Here it is.
Yeah,
There's the difference.
Block kick, I think, from the
Between the
right
tie
side.
or
wasn't
long.
it?
Yes, it was. And at the time, the Rams had moved all the way down in overtime and had set up, I believe that was that the overtime field goal attempt? I think it was. And we're in great position to win the game and couldn't.
And again,
That was our
stopping it.
second goal line
That's
fumble
right.
recovery.
That's right.
And here we are, ready to score a winning touchdown, and
Nope.
Rick
Yeah.
Kay makes a good play.
Yeah, he did.
So that's the way that second game went, 10-10. It was a block kick, and as we say, great goal line stands and defense. The next game, about the same thing. I think it's game 3, Vikings-Detroit. The final score there, if you remember, was 10-9. And again, the difference was a block kick. Let's take a look at that game, and if we can figure out what's going on as we look at some of the ground level stuff and try to see just how this stuff happens. Landry at quarterback. I believe he's back, isn't he, Grady?
Yes, he is. And apparently is having a pretty good preseason, or had a pretty good preseason. Although they used a couple of their other quarterbacks, I think Landry will be their man.
Bobby Lee came in, and Francis was hurt in this game.
And he took a shot to the ribs early in the game and had to come out.
In fact, he missed the following game, and it was the first game he'd ever missed.
All right, Bobby quarterback to victory over Pittsburgh. But as we look at number 85 here, perhaps we should remind ourselves he was a raw recruit, and what a great start for Sammy White, huh? Look at this. Never blocked that way in your day, Grady. Yes, you did. I've got to be honest about it. But that was a tremendous play. Execution was perfect.
Yeah, and it was a draw play, kind of an unexpected play in that situation.
Here again, right down to the wire. Now we're 10.
Yeah, we had stopped them 4 times from the 1-yard line, and the next time they got down there, they threw the ball.
Yeah,
And,
it was 10-9, and here's the extra point attempt.
Kind of a bobbly snap or hold on it.
So, that's what we're talking about. If you get any kind of hesitation by the kicker, anything that delays his kick, then if Nate Allen has taken off on the ball, he can get there in time to block the kick, which he did there.
Okay, there were other games like that, and of course there are great offensive games. We'll look at some more of those in just a minute after we take time out to watch this.
Get on, Skidoo, and go do it.
Well, you talk about the 76 season and the difference between a block kick that made the difference in the score, winning or losing for the Vikings. Of course, you're going to talk about that first game against the Bears, 20-19. The difference again, a block kick. The Bears and the Vikings split in their series last year. That's not unusual in that division, I believe. The Bears, in some areas, have been picked to win the division, and I don't know about that, Grady. Playboy magazine picked the Bears. Why do you suppose that?
Well, I think the Playboy, of course, is located in Chicago. They had no alternative but to pick the Bears. I don't think the Bears have the personnel. Certainly on offense, their quarterback situation is not settled. And if they lose Peyton, there goes about 50% of their attack.
Yeah.
Defensively, they have some good players, but there again, they're a little short. If they lose a couple players, they're really in the jackpot.
I think realistically, they're still in the building situation. I don't think there's any
Well,
question about that.
they've yet to prove themselves consistently, I think. I think anyone would agree that they've got talent on the team, and they've certainly got the schedule that that could allow them to do well this year, but they've yet to really show themselves as being a consistent performer throughout the year, and I think until they do, I think you'd have to pick a more consistent club, which I believe we are, to win the division.
Okay, let's look at some of that Bear personnel in the 2019 win by the Vikings against the Bears in Metropolitan Stadium. Walter Payton, the great running back, was a big man for them. Chuck Foreman, number 44, doing the usual great job for the Vikings. Payton, as you said, Grady, man, he's like, 30, 40, 50% at this stage of their offense.
He's really a great rusher. In fact, last year they used him in the fashion, let him play the first 2 quarters, and then rested him some in the third.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I felt that this game was strange and that all this offense you saw was in the first half. We led 17-0 in the first half, just totally dominated the Bears, offensively and defensively, and the game was just the opposite in the second half. And we couldn't stop Peyton, and as you said, they took him out in the fourth quarter during a couple of crucial drives in which they had a chance to score and didn't, and I thought that was the difference in the game.
Does he get in on this run? Man, there's always been an argument about this. Watch the post.
I don't think so.
Some people say he did, some he didn't. Is this Peyton coming? No, this is Harper, I think. And another TD in the second half.
Gets one here.
An excellent running back to go along with Peyton.
They've got a guy now, Robin Earl, a big, huge fullback out of University of Washington.
There it is. Guess what? Block kick. And as a matter of fact, Thomas then got another shot and missed a kick, just cold missed it.
Yeah, he missed a long field goal, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he missed an extra point, too.
He missed an extra point also.
That's right.
This play was key. It was 4th down, and with that tackle, they did not get the first down, Jeff.
Well, he actually had gotten enough, and I believe it was Nate Allen that made that tackle, just pulled him back a little bit, and I thought the officials gave us a very good mark there, because I believe he would have had the first down.
Okay, the rule is he should have marked it where there was contact?
That's right, where his forward progress had stopped.
Okay, where Nate hits him and stops his forward progress.
That's right.
Rather than where you might pull him back to on a pass.
Unless the offensive players, by his own actions, loses the yards. Sometimes you see some guys dancing. If they lose a yard that way, then the official, of course, marks it back.
So it can be a tough life for an official, too.
It's very, very tough.
Other games, well, we could talk more defense, but why don't we look at some offense? Probably one of the outstanding games of the year, certainly for number 44, Chuck Foreman, was the game against Philadelphia. A big win for the Vikings, 200 yards on the ground for this guy. And Jeff, I think he'll climb to even greater heights if he can keep his good health.
Well, he's been fortunate so far, and you forget how great Chuck Foreman is until you go back and watch some of these highlights. He just does some unbelievable things, as does this guy, Sammy White. And the guy throwing the ball is not too bad either.
Grady, once in a while, we were talking about the Bears. People talk about Gale Sayers, how that great career ended because of injuries. Was it Sayers' technique or the way he exposed himself to being hit? Or what's the difference between the Sayers who doesn't last that long and some of the old guys like Boomer Brown and some of those guys who could play year after year?
Well, Sayers is a very loose type runner, long strides, and I think anytime you stride yourself out, you expose yourself to hits that maybe you wouldn't.
I've seen Chuck do it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think especially with the big cut Chuck will make, the plant and cut, I think anytime you plant on one of those legs, you're vulnerable to a very serious knee injury, but thus far he's been fortunate.
You think about a guy like Jimmy Brown, who barely picked his feet up when he ran, just kind of skated along, and he escaped injury completely his entire 9-year career.
Mm-hmm.
Now that pass got us back in the game right there.
Actually, this game didn't open up for you until the last quarter.
No, it didn't at
Very
all.
close.
We were losing 9-0. Bill Bradley, who we have since released, intercepted a pass and ran some 50, 60 yards to set up one touchdown early in the game for him.
There's Chuck again.
Yeah, this, I think, was his longest run of the season, about 41 yards. That was a fake dive and a pitch out.
And we might as well do it one more time.
Well,
a great
watch-
day for Chuck.
Watch
Farmer.
this run.
There's strength for he's breaking tackles too.
Yeah,
Not just a
sure
matter
is.
of being faster.
Chuck isn't all that fast. When you really get down to it, he's not a burner.
It's a matter of quickness and instinct, I guess, as much as anything.
And
Nothing else for
acceleration.
it.
He gets to maximum speed in a hurry, which is, I think, the key of any great back. I don't care how fast you are. If you can't get to that maximum acceleration in a short period of time, then you won't be great.
Grady, we've got a few seconds here before we take another break. I wanted to ask you, since Jeff is here representing pretty much the defense, what about the Viking offense and that offensive line in particular, and what do you think? And just,
Well, offensively, you have to look at the Vikings and say they're going to be an excellent team. They've got the best pair of receivers in the league. They have a competent tight end who makes the clutch catches, the great running back, the best quarterback in the game, and the offensive line is very, very experienced, and they've worked together a long time, even without White. So I think that they will have a good offensive team.
Well, we'll find out about that this week and, of course, through the season. We'll be back in just a moment with talk, Jeff, about a new book that's coming out after we take time out to watch this. Viking fans, help fight muscular dystrophy by subscribing to Viking Report today. Follow your favorite players. Order Viking Report for 1 full year, 26 big issues for just $12.95. And courtesy of the Olympia Brewing Company, $3 will go to the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Order Viking Report today and help fight MD. Send check or money order for $12.95 to Viking Report, Box 20693, Minneapolis 55420. Viking Report, Box 20693, Minneapolis 55420.
There's a signal in the air that's the future of color television. It's called VIR. For the first time, it lets the broadcaster control TV set color and tint adjustments on many programs. General Electric has color models with special circuitry to use this VIR signal, so you can enjoy color automatically adjusted by the broadcasters. This is GE Performance Television.
Well, since we were together last, the Vikings have played and lost in the Super Bowl, and last January's loss was loss number 4 in the Super Bowl. And a way that you might get some insight on it is to look for a new book coming out, a book that was co-authored by our guest, Jeff Seaman. The title, I think, roughly is Why the Vikings Can't Win the Super Bowl. Is that...
Will the Vikings ever win the Super Bowl? That's a good question. But, of course, Jim Klobuchar wrote the book, Tony, and all I did was essentially keep a diary day-to-day of last season. And I think Jim is one of the best writers in the country, did a super job on Tarkenton's book, and I think as good a job on this book. Essentially what it's done is to critique the season day by day, I think with some very interesting anecdotes, what went into each game that we played, as well as taking a lot of the fans and players around the country, giving their reasons why the Vikings haven't won the Super Bowl. And some of those reasons are very reasonable in some cases, very bizarre in other cases, but it makes for interesting reading.
Do you answer the question?
Well,
The title.
we provide a lot of answers, and I guess I think each fan is going to have to choose his own answer.
Okay. Grady, you were there for a couple of those losses. How about an answer from you before we see the book?
Unfortunately, Tony, I was. And, you know, I've replayed all of those games in my mind many times, and I always relate back to one or two key plays that the other guys made and we didn't, which could have turned the whole thing around. So I think maybe, like many football games, it boils down to making the big play when you have to.
Okay, Grady, thank you very much for taking time out from your very busy schedule, a full-time certified public accountant, broadcaster on WCCO for Viking games. Jeff, certainly thanks to you for taking your time. Good luck to you and the guys.
Thank you.
You bet. That wraps us up. We'll see you next week about this same time. So long.
370, 370, hut, hut.
Vikings Football, a weekly report on the Minnesota Vikings' 1977 National Football League campaign, is brought to you in part by Bombardier Skidoo, the world's #1 selling snowmobile. Go do it.